We got this article from Deadline talking about the box office results for theatrical releases in 2023, just kind of examining to see which movies lost the most amount of money. And things weren't looking too well for Disney because out of the 5 worst performing movies at the box office, Disney produced 4 of them, also taking the #1 spot with The Marvels, which lost over $200 million for the company. In fact, the MCU as a whole kind of suffered in 2023 because out of the 3 releases that they had, only one of them was able to make any money according to the box office results, and that was Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. But we also got this other reporting coming out from Deadline looking at the box office results and what Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 was able to make. And if you really break this down, it looks like that might have actually lost money for Disney too. While Marvel Studios went into freefall with The Marvels in November, repping the lowest opening ever in the Disney MCU at $46.1 million, and fueling Disney CEO Bob Iger's new mission to make less movies and of better quality, what Guardians of the Galaxy 3 did was prove that Marvel fanboys, when they know something is excellent, come out. And then we got this nice little chart right here that breaks down the revenue stream for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 as well as the expenditures for it, because it's not as simple as this is the production budget, this is how much it made at the box office. If the box office is higher, that means it made money. Some people think that's the case, but that's not really how it is. So this will kind of get into it. There are some issues with this chart, and I will address that. But first, let's just kind of go over in broad strokes what this is saying. So it says the total revenue is $674 million on $550 million expenditure for studio net gain of $124 million. Sounds good, right? This is how they break it down. So you got the domestic, box office, international, and worldwide at $845.6 million that it made globally at the box office. So not too bad. But for revenue, for theatrical, it says it made $374 million. And the reason why this is so much lower is because the $374 million is what the studio actually made themselves, because they don't get 100% of the box office. The way it usually works is the studio only gets a certain percentage of the box office depending on what country it's in. For instance, in the US, they get around 50% of the box office. In China, they get 25% of the box office, and it varies from country to country. When people are just trying to figure this out in broad strokes as a rule of thumb, you just think like, okay, the studio gets around half of the global take. But if you were to really dive down and to look at each individual country, how much they made and how much percentage they get from that particular country, then that's where they came up with the $374 million figure for this chart. Then it says $120 million for home entertainment, $180 million for television and streaming. And you got to understand the $120 million for home entertainment, that includes digital video on demand, DVD and Blu-ray sales. That's not all profit for Disney. There's certain costs associated with that as well. For instance, Disney outsources the production and distribution of their DVDs and Blu-rays to Sony. So Sony gets a cut for every DVD sale that they make. And also the sale of digital video on demand is on sites like Apple TV, YouTube, Amazon, and those companies also get a certain percentage of those sales. So this isn't all profit. We don't know what the actual expenditures are for this, but still, I just thought I should point that out. And the television and streaming service isn't all profit as well either. In fact, that's just creative accounting on this part, because Disney has not premiered Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 on any regular television network that they don't already own, because the primary streaming revenue for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is when it's streaming on Disney Plus, which is something that Disney owns. So saying it made $180 million from that is basically just one division of Disney paying the other division. It'd be like me saying, I'm going to sell this pen for $1,000, but I'm also interested in buying this pen for $1,000. So I'm going to sell it to myself. There, I'm going to put on the books that I made $1,000 today because I sold that pen, but that's obviously not what happened. That's essentially what Disney's doing when they say they made $180 million by selling the streaming rights to Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 to the Disney Plus platform. And it even really says as much in this article. The $180 million figure includes the amount for which Disney sells the film to itself, Disney Plus being the pay one window for the studio's movies. So you can just write off this $180 million here, because they're not going to make any money by just licensing it to themselves, especially since they're just putting it on the Disney Plus platform. And as of the time of this recording, Disney Plus has lost $12 billion for the company since its launch, and they have yet to have a quarter where they made money on Disney Plus. They maintain that they're going to be profitable by the end of this year, But before they said Disney Plus was going to be profitable, then at the last earnings call, Bob Iger said Disney Plus and Hulu were going to be profitable. Notice that slight difference right there, one platform versus both those platforms, especially since Hulu was already profitable before they even bought it. So you can see how they're going to try to play some shenanigans right there in order to save face and say that, like, see, Disney Plus is profitable like we said it was, but I know that's not necessarily going to be the case. Now, going down to the expenses, because if you just subtract that $180 million from the $674 million that it says it made in revenue, that's around $994 million in revenue. And that's obviously lower than the expenses. But there are some things here that aren't necessarily the case, like $250 million for the production costs. Okay, assuming that that's all the reshoots and stuff factored into that. Oftentimes it's not, but let's just assume that it is. Then there's prints and ads, so the marketing budget. That's kind of high, but that's because Disney didn't necessarily absorb all the marketing costs for it themselves. They had relationships with other companies, like toy companies, for instance. They were working with them to help promote it, so the toy companies would absorb some of the costs of that. McDonald's is a good example. They were packaging Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 toys in Happy Meals, so McDonald's would pay for some of the advertisement of it. Not all of it, but still the full $160 million isn't necessarily just on Disney. But still, Disney absorbed the majority of this $160 million cost for marketing. And you got to consider when they're advertising on TV, like on ABC, ESPN, those are networks that they own. So by any advertisement slot that they're taking up, that's potentially losing money from other companies not being able to advertise with them. We don't know the total cost of that they're losing as a result, but let's just assume that $160 million is what they are spent on their advertisement costs. Maybe that's kind of factored into it. But in total, you can delete this $180 million because, like I pointed out, they didn't actually make any money from that. And let's assume that they got 100% of the home entertainment, all the places selling their video digitally, or Sony isn't taking a cut for their Blu-rays and DVDs or anything like that. That's entirely profit for Disney. Well, then still you subtract the $180 million from the $674 million, and then you figure $550 million in expenses. Well, then it's still like $50 million in the hole that they're going to be in for this movie. And on a $250 million budget, $850 million or just under that is not enough for them to be a profit. They need to be around $900 million in order to be profitable. But let's just say it's $875 million. You can look at previous Marvel movies for the last couple of years and see $250 million for Guardians of the Galaxy. It lost money on 845. Ant-Man Wasp: Quantumanium, we know that one lost money. They've admitted it. Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, same budget as Guardians. Apparently that lost money too. Thor: Love and Thunder, same budget. Yep, that really lost money for them. Doctor Strange: Multiverse of Madness, that looks like it's the last movie that was profitable for them, and that came out May 2022. So 2 years ago it came out, and that's the last time they made something that was good or something that made money for them. And I think the executives at Disney knew that this was going on for some time now, because up until this point, up until The Marvels was such a failure where it didn't even make its production budget back, that they admitted, like, okay, there's problems. Bob Iger saying, like, we're going to focus on the quality moving forward and not just quantity and other things like that. But between Doctor Strange and The Marvels failing, we've been hearing about like a lot of rewrites and reshoots and other things like that. They understood that their movies weren't good, and they were trying to just shove them out there because they were just figuring like, well, if they're Marvel movies, people are going to watch them anyway. And that's not the case. People aren't just going to show up to a movie just because it's a Marvel movie. It says so much in this article towards the end. Moviegoers during the opening weekend said the main reason they saw the threequel was because it was part of the franchise they cherish. And the franchise isn't the MCU, it's a Guardians of the Galaxy franchise. People like the characters, they like those movies, they like James Gunn directing, so that's why the movie was successful. You can compare that to some of the other Marvel movies, the successful ones. Well, in the past, people would just watch anything Marvel related, and that's not really going to happen anymore. You have to be something that people want, like Spider-Man: No Way Home. The Spider-Man movies are always successful, which raises questions why Sony isn't making a Spider-Man 4 with Tobey Maguire and Sam Raimi. That would make billions of dollars, but I don't know. Sony doesn't want to make money for some reason like that. But either way, that's beside the point. I'm not confident that there's the executives at Disney and Marvel are capable of making something that audiences want to see again. Now, Deadpool and Wolverine, I think that movie's probably going to do pretty well. It's probably going to make money for them, but that doesn't necessarily mean the MCU is going to be saved or anything like that, because moving forward, what do they have that are going to drive audiences? Is the Fantastic Four going to be the next big thing? Because they're definitely banking on that, and I'm just not confident that's going to pull through. Maybe the movie will be good, but I just haven't seen any goodwill from Disney in the last couple of years to suggest that they're capable of actually producing something well. I think what's going to happen is they're going to continue to making movies, and they're going to make less and less stuff over time. Every once in a while, they're going to put out a movie that's successful, but they're going to put out other movies that are unsuccessful. They're never going to get back to the days where people are just going to habitually watch a movie just because it's a Marvel movie. And until they figure that out, they're just going to continue to lose more and more money. But let me know what you think about all this in the comment section below. Do you think Guardians of the Galaxy actually did lose money? Or do you think I was wrong, or some of these charts were wrong and they actually did make money? Because I want to hear what other people have to say about it. And if you haven't already, make sure you click that subscribe button if you want to stay up to date with the latest in entertainment news. And don't forget to like and share the video because it really helps out with the channel. Thank you.